before you scroll, before you say this sounds familiar, before you assume this is just another word telling you to wait. I need you to listen in. I need you to stay with me till the end. Because this isn't just a message, this is a rescue, a holy interruption, a divine alarm in the middle of your fatigue. Right before you choose to say yes to something beneath you just because your heart is tired. You've waited too long to settle now. You've cried too many nights to accept a love that doesn't reflect what you prayed for. You've been through too much warfare to get here, only to link yourself with someone who doesn't understand the weight you carry or the oil on your life. I know you're tempted. I know how silence can make settling sound like comfort. I know how long seasons of singleness can blur your standards and make you think maybe this is just how it ends for me. But beloved, God did not let you survive all you went through just to leave you with crumbs. The loneliness you feel right now is not a sign that He forgot, it's a signal that He's protecting your yes. The right love is still coming, but it cannot arrive while you are holding hands with what doesn't even see you. Not the surface you, but the you God molded in secret. That youth, the one who worships even when it hurts, who keeps praying even when nothing changes, who's still standing despite every betrayal, is the you that the right one will honor, not confuse. The Lord is reminding you today, don't shrink for this, don't bend for this, don't compromise for a connection that cost you your clarity. Ecclesiastes 3:11 says, He has made everything beautiful in its time, but settling demands that you abandon God's timing and crown your own timeline as king. It whispers, you're running out of time, when heaven is saying, I'm still preparing the table. And I know you're not asking for perfect. You're not even asking for a fairy tale. You just want someone to hold you right, to speak life, to choose you without games. But in that hunger, don't bite the bait of the almost consistent, the almost ready, the almost intentional. Almost will drain your soul and delay your destiny. That's why God is speaking so clearly right now. You are worth the wait. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. And you are not asking for too much. You are just asking it from someone who was never built to carry it. And before you make another emotional covenant out of loneliness, let God finish writing what He started. The delay is not punishment. The silence is not abandonment. It's construction. He's constructing a love that doesn't trigger your old trauma. A love that doesn't ask you to mute your emotions just to be heard. A love that doesn't make you feel guilty for being deep. Because the right love isn't scared of your scars, respects the story behind them. The right love doesn't confuse attention with commitment. The right love doesn't flirt with your soul only to ghost your spirit. The right love has eyes for you, ears for your heart, and hands that don't drop your dreams. That's what God is working on, and it's why He let everything else fall apart, because when it's right, it won't leave you doubting every 5 minutes. So don't give your yes to someone who only offers you maybe. Don't try to heal what hurt you by giving it another chance. Don't call it love when you had to trade your joy to keep it alive. This time, you wait. And while you wait, don't just mark time. Build your peace. Build your intimacy with God. Build your confidence again. Because when the right love shows up, it won't complete you, it'll complement what God has already refined in you. That's how you'll know. Until then, Isaiah 42:31 says, But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Your waiting isn't wasting, its warfare. It's intercession for your future. And just because it hasn't shown up yet doesn't mean it's not coming. It means heaven is still tailoring it to match the greatness inside you. So don't forfeit what you deserve just because you're tired of standing alone. Your tears were not for nothing. Your standards are not too high. Your wait is not in vain. The right love is still coming, and it's being shaped by the hand of a God who knows exactly what your heart needs, not just what your eyes want. Don't settle now. You almost said yes, not because they were everything you needed, but because you were tired of needing anything at all, tired of the empty inbox, tired of weddings you attend alone, tired of scrolling past smiling couples while your bed remains untouched by love. You weren't weak, you were weary. You weren't desperate, were dehydrated. Dehydrated for something that felt like connection, even if it came wrapped in red flags you promised to ignore. They didn't quite match your prayer list, but they seemed interested. They didn't really understand your anointing, but they said all the right things. You knew deep down something wasn't aligned, but the loneliness made you negotiate your spirit. You almost said yes, not out of faith, but out of fatigue. But that's when God stepped in. Maybe it was a sudden silence. Maybe they ghosted. Maybe things just stopped making sense. Whatever the trigger, heaven intercepted your almost and snatched you from the jaws of disappointment you were about to baptize as destiny. Because God is too invested in your purpose to let you give your heart away on sale. He saw you rationalizing what you knew wasn't real. He watched you rewrite your boundaries in pencil. He saw the way you rehearsed the "it's not that bad" speech just to silence your convictions. But God is not a silent observer. He's an active protector. And when he saw you bending your crown to fit a connection that didn't have the capacity to honor it, he let it break. Not to hurt you, but to save you. Because you were about to step into a chapter that would have sounded like romance on the surface, but was rooted in emotional decay. They didn't know how to hold you without dimming you. They admired your light, but secretly resented your fire. You thought you could teach them to grow. You thought if you loved them well enough, they'd catch up. But love doesn't fix what only God can change. 2 Corinthians 6:14 says, "Do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers." But some of you weren't just yoked to unbelievers. Were tied to the insecure, the inconsistent, the unavailable, and the emotionally unsafe. And you called it patience. You called it faith. But God called it danger. So he intervened. He dried up the communication. He let the charm wear off. He let their words fall flat. And though your heart hurt, your spirit exhaled. Because somewhere, deep inside, you knew, if you had kept walking that road, you wouldn't just lose your standards, you'd lose yourself. And that is something God would never let happen, because you were never created to build altars for people who can't even pray for you. You were never meant to lower your discernment just to feel seen. You were never called to confuse emotional adrenaline for divine alignment. And yet, the longer you sat in the wilderness of waiting, the more your flesh started to negotiate with your hope, but God still blocked it. Because his no is always soaked in mercy. His interruption is his intimacy. His delay is his devotion to the version of you that is whole, vibrant, and completely free. And now, instead of feeling defeated, you're slowly remembering, I almost settled, but I didn't. I almost accepted crumbs, but I still have my seat at the table. I almost tied my soul to someone who only wanted access, not accountability, but God broke it before it broke me. That's love. That's divine protection. That's why you don't have to regret the silence or the breakup or the ones that walked away. They didn't reject youth, they released you. And now, God is reteaching you how to wait in faith without confusing stillness with punishment. He's showing you how to hold space for holy love that doesn't make you your value. Love that sees you, chooses you, and builds with you. But that kind of love won't find you halfway yoked to a soul tie God already untangled. So, if it ended, let it. If it vanished, don't chase it. If it collapsed, thank God for the ruins. Because you're not being punished, you're being positioned. The right love is still coming. And when it arrives, you'll be grateful for every no that God shouted on your behalf while you were too heart-tired to speak. This next love won't confuse you. It won't cost you your calling. It won't manipulate your kindness. It won't pressure your body while ignoring your soul. This next love will be sent, not settled, for you almost said yes, but heaven said no, and you're still here, whole, worthy, and waiting on something worthy of you. You've been scrolling past everyone's celebrations, engagements, anniversaries, surprise proposals. We met 6 months ago and now we're married. They make it look so easy. Meanwhile, you're just trying to survive another night without overthinking every reason you're still alone. You pray, you serve, you fast, you stay faithful, and yet the delay feels louder than the promise. You're starting to wonder if God somehow skipped your name when he was handing out love stories. You say you trust him, but if you're honest, the silence is getting heavy. But let me speak this with clarity and compassion. God is not ignoring you, he's protecting you. You're not being delayed because you're not worthy. You're not alone because you're invisible. What you call delay, God calls divine preservation. He is preserving your heart, your future, your assignment, your capacity, your peace, because the kind of love he's preparing you for won't just hold your hand, it will help you carry your mantle. You are not single because you're broken. You are single because your calling is weighty, and God is not about to let someone into your life who would mishandle your heart, misinterpret your silence, and resent your strength. God isn't just building a partner, he's building a partnership, and partnerships take time. He is making sure you are not just found, but seen, not just chosen, but understood, not just celebrated in public, but covered in private. That kind of depth can't be rushed. That kind of person can't be found on just any timeline. And if he has to hide you to heal you, so be it. If he has to pause your timeline so he can finish preparing the kind of love that can steward your softness, so be it. Because premature connections cost more than delayed ones. Isaiah 32:18 says, "Yet the Lord longs to be gracious to you. Therefore, he will rise up to show you compassion. For the Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all who wait for him." You're not cursed because you're waiting, you're blessed because you're preserved. Look back, you almost fell for someone who used affection as control. You almost said yes to someone who didn't pray with you, didn't pursue you in purity, didn't even know what covering meant. And now you're here, whole, wiser, and clearer. That's not loss, that's preservation. God isn't delaying to hurt you. He's aligning the right timing with the right person at the right depth. Because if the right one came too soon, you'd self-sabotage it. Or worse, you'd confuse it with a counterfeit. But not now, not anymore. You've grown. You've healed. You've survived wilderness seasons where it looked like nothing would ever bloom, and God is about to prove that what looked like a delay was just deep planting. He planted you deep so your roots could go wide. Because what he's growing through you can't be toppled by storms or shaken by temptation. It's not that you weren't ready to love, it's that you weren't ready to be loved correctly. Not until now. And this time around, your discernment won't let you settle. Your peace will scream louder than your loneliness. Your clarity will overrule your cravings. You will choose differently because you are different now. God used the delay to detox you from trauma, from lines, from toxic validation cycles. You are free now, not because everything's perfect, but because you finally know you don't need a person to prove your worth. And from that place of fullness, the right love will find you. Not because you were desperate for it, but because you were never defined by it. That's what this delay has been for. Preservation of your joy, your calling, your softness, your power. And when love comes, it will feel like a mirror of God's heart, not just a good moment. You won't have to force it. You won't have to chase it. You won't have to perform for it. It will just be right. And when it comes, you'll know. God didn't delay me, He protected me from everything that almost made me settle. Let's be honest, at some point in your journey, someone made you feel like you were the problem, like your passion was too loud, your heart was too deep, your boundaries were too high, your love was too intentional, your presence was too much. So you did what so many do, you shrank. You muted your voice. You started double texting what used to come naturally. You stopped praying out loud in front of them. You laughed a little softer. You started calling your own emotions dramatic. You began to apologize for the weight of your calling. But let me say this clearly. You were never too much. They were just never enough to receive you. They were not graced to handle the intensity of someone who carries purpose. They weren't equipped to love someone who speaks the language of heaven in a world that settles for surface. And so they labeled you, not because you were wrong, but because they weren't ready. They called you extra because you expected consistency. They called you too spiritual because you saw through their performance. They said you were doing too much because you asked for a love that actually builds, covers, and communicates. But God never asked you to shrink. In fact, He's the one who put that weight in you. That depth, that discernment, that purity, that conviction, that clarity, that standard. Psalm 139:14 says, I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, I know that full well. God didn't make a mistake with you. He handcrafted someone who would never be satisfied with watered-down love and convenience-level communication. And that's not a flaw, it's a signature. You carry the imprint of a God who does everything in fullness. And anything less than full love always felt wrong because you weren't designed to settle for partial. So let me tell you this, prophetically and plainly. Stop apologizing for your depth. Stop explaining your standards to people who only want access, not responsibility. Stop translating your soul to someone who can't even pray with you. Stop trying to edit your God-given intensity just to survive another emotional breadcrumb trail. The right one is still coming, and they won't just tolerate your depth, they'll need it. Not because they're broken, but because their spirit recognizes yours. They'll be drawn to your fire, not afraid of it. They'll want to know how you see the world, not silence your vision. They'll love your questions. They'll admire your prayer life. They won't think it's too much when you cry over something that touched your spirit. They'll lean in, not pull away. And when you get quiet, they'll notice. When your heart is heavy, they'll speak life. When your vision is foggy, they'll fast with you, not flirt through your confusion. That's what's being prepared. That's the kind of love heaven is crafting behind the scenes. And every moment you've been labeled, overlooked, ghosted, misunderstood, or minimized has been recorded by a God who says, I see you. I made you this way. I'll send someone who honors it. But you have to stop settling for those who only like your shine but despise your fire. You have to stop interpreting spiritual resistance as romantic compatibility. You have to stop dimming your discernment just because you're tired of explaining yourself. The one who is sent will already know. They'll speak the language of your spirit without translation. They won't flinch when you say, "God told me." They won't mock your dreams. They won't belittle your spiritual gifts. They'll love you in full. Not for what you can do, but for who you are in God. So don't shrink now. Don't shift now. Don't settle now. The right love is still coming, and it will not ask you to choose between your calling and your connection. It will come in alignment, not distraction. It will push you closer to God, not closer to compromise. It will confirm what your spirit already knows. I was never too much. I was just waiting on someone who was sent to handle me. You've been exhausted, not because you're weak, but because you've spent too much of your sacred energy trying to force something that God already closed the door on. Let's be real. You shouldn't have had to explain what consistency looks like to someone grown. You shouldn't have had to remind someone of your worth when your presence alone was a gift. You shouldn't have had to send paragraph-long texts, hoping that this time they would finally understand you. But you did, because somewhere inside you thought if you loved hard enough, prayed hard enough, gave deep enough, they would change. But that's not love. That's labor without covenant. That's performing for someone who never had the character to steward you. That's spiritual fatigue masquerading as faithfulness. And here's the truth. If it's from God, it will not require you to beg for clarity, compromise your peace, or chase their affection like crumbs falling from a table you don't belong under. Proverbs 10:22 says, "The blessing of the Lord makes rich, and he adds no sorrow with it." So, if what you're calling love is always wrapped in confusion, tears, anxiety, uncertainty, manipulation, and emotional exhaustion, you might be calling warfare a relationship. And that's not what God is sending. That's not what he has for you. God will never send someone who asks you to abandon your discernment for the sake of company. God will never call you to covenant with someone who forces you to lower your voice, silence your convictions, and constantly prove your value. The one he sends will recognize you not eventually, but immediately. Not because they're perfect, but because they're anchored. And anchored people don't play tug-of-war with your emotions. Anchored people don't disappear for 3 days and come back with excuses. Anchored people don't need to be convinced to be intentional. Anchored people, God-sent people, don't need to be chased because they're sent, not scouted. And God never sends confusion. And Corinthians 14:33 says, "For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace." And if your heart has been spinning in circles over someone, praying for signs while ignoring the silence, crying after conversations that left you feeling smaller, God is saying today, stop forcing it. Love that is from me does not come with fear. It doesn't come with mixed signals. It doesn't make you feel like you're too much or not enough in the same breath. It comes with peace. It comes with honor. It comes with intention. You won't have to chase it, fix it, parent it, or explain basic love. You won't have to constantly wonder where you stand. You won't have to make excuses for why you're not being seen. You'll just know. You'll know because the love I send will fit the alignment you prayed for in private. It will echo the rhythm of your healing. And for once, you won't have to recover from being loved. So why are you forcing what you should be fasting from? Why are you entertaining what your spirit already feels resistance toward? That delay in your spirit is not doubt, it's discernment. Don't confuse your loneliness for confirmation. Don't confuse emotional chemistry for divine compatibility. Don't mistake attention for affection. You don't need another need alignment. You don't need another let's see where this goes. You need vision. And vision doesn't come from chasing it. comes from choosing. And if they can't choose you clearly, publicly, spiritually, and consistently, God already has your answer. The right love is still coming. It's being formed in the fire of patience, faith, and clarity. And while you wait, let God detox your soul from every pattern that taught you love was supposed to be chaotic. Love is not chaos. Love is clarity. Love is peace. Love is God. So breathe, release your grip. Let go of what you're forcing, and trust that what's truly sent won't need your striving. It will simply meet you, hold you, and walk with you in purpose. The right love is still coming, and you won't have to chase it. You'll just walk into it whole, free, and completely at peace. Let's talk about the silence. Let's talk about the unanswered prayers, the unopened messages, the birthdays you spent by yourself while smiling for other people. Let's talk about the seasons when your phone didn't ring unless you called first. Let's talk about the nights where worship was the only thing that kept you from calling someone you knew wasn't sent. Let's talk about how you walked into rooms full of people and still felt unseen. How your heart ached when you heard others talk about their person while you quietly carried the weight of waiting. You didn't say it out loud, but you whispered it in your soul. Why am I still alone? Let me tell you what the enemy didn't want you to hear. Your isolation was not rejection. It wasn't punishment. It wasn't divine forgetfulness. It was purification. God wasn't trying to break your heart, He was refining your soul. You were in a season of divine detox, where heaven was stripping away everything that made you believe your worth came from being chosen by someone else. And yes, it was painful. Yes, it was lonely. Yes, it made you question your beauty, your value, your enoughness. But God wasn't just keeping others from you, He was keeping the wrong version of you from attaching to the wrong thing. He was healing the part of you that thought attention was love. He was restoring the girl in you who thought she had to perform to be kept. He was healing the man in you who thought being emotionally guarded was strength. He was building in you a foundation that doesn't flinch when love delays, because now you know, delayed doesn't mean denied. Delayed sometimes just means developed. And that's what He was doing. Developing your discernment. Developing your confidence. Developing your voice. Developing your vision. He was refining your standards through fire. He was teaching you to recognize peace, not just passion, because passion without purpose is a prison. It traps you in cycles where you're constantly proving, performing, and praying for someone to stay who was never sent in the first place, but not anymore. That's why He isolated you, not to punish, but to preserve, not to reject, but to reveal. He revealed who really had access to your soul without responsibility. He revealed which relationships fed your flesh but starved your spirit. He revealed how easily you gave your yes without requiring commitment. And in the quiet, He taught you to breathe without a partner, to sleep without shame, to dream again without waiting on approval, to live full, not lonely, to worship without needing a witness. And that's where He's been meeting you in the silence. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." He was never far. He just needed to get you alone enough to be honest. Because in crowds, you perform. In noise, you deflect. But in silence, you confront. And what you confronted was the version of you that would have settled just to feel something. That version is dying, and in its place is rising someone who doesn't chase attention, but attracts alignment. Someone who doesn't fall in love at the sound of compliments, but waits for the evidence of character. Someone who doesn't just want a partner, but wants purpose. Someone who doesn't let loneliness drive their decisions, because they're already in love with the one who never left. And now that God has done the work, now that your identity is no longer tied to a relationship status, He can trust you with love. Not because you're desperate, but because you're ready. Because you've been purified by the fire of loneliness and came out without the stench of bitterness. And let me tell you what's next. The right love is still coming. And this time, you won't sabotage it. You won't overthink it. You won't doubt it. You'll be able to receive it, not because it completes you, but because it confirms what God already told you. It's on the way. It's already being shaped in the secret place. But it had to wait for this version of you, the healed one. The whole one. The one who no longer compromises clarity for comfort. The one who knows how to be chosen without chasing. The one who can stand alone and still be full. That's who love is coming for. And when it arrives, it won't have to break through your trauma just to find your heart. It'll find you healed, ready, and finally convinced you never had to settle in the first place.